Have you ever been left behind by someone who promised they never would? Not because you did something wrong, but because you stopped fitting into their story? It was raining that night, but kind of rain that soaks through your clothes and hides your tears. 17-year-old Isabella Carter stood in the doorway, her hands trembling as she watched her father shove the last suitcase into his car. He didn't look back, not even once. Behind her, her mother sat on the couch, silent, broken, pretending to be strong. Isabella wanted to scream, to ask why. Why was their love suddenly not enough? Why was he choosing a new life, a new family, over the one that stood in front of him? But all she got were 5 words. Cold, final, unforgettable. You'll understand when you're older. The engine started. Red taillights disappeared into the storm. And just like that, the man who taught her to ride a bike, to dream big, to never give up, was gone. That night, Isabella learned something no teenager should ever have to learn. Sometimes, love doesn't fade. It just leaves. But the story didn't end there, because one day, the same man who walked away from his daughter would end up working for her. Some goodbyes echo long after the door closes. For Isabella, it echoed through silence. Every week, she wrote him letters, birthday cards, Christmas wishes, updates about school. She even mailed him a picture of her graduation, smiling, cap slightly crooked. But the mailbox never smiled back. No letters returned. No calls. No visits. Only silence. The kind that grows heavier with every unanswered word. Her mother tried to stay strong, but heartbreak has a way of showing up on hospital bills. The medicine became expensive. The fridge emptier. So Isabella did what she had to do. She tied her hair, put on an apron, and took her first job, wiping tables in a roadside diner. While her friends planned college tours, she counted tips to pay for electricity. Every night, when the lights flickered, she'd whisper to herself, "He'll come back. He has to." But then one morning, she saw him. Not in person, in the newspaper. A smiling photo. Businessman James Carter marries hotel heiress Evelyn Monroe. Her father, in a tuxedo, standing beside a woman draped in diamonds. A caption beneath, "The perfect family begins a new chapter." Perfect. That word burned through her like fire. He wasn't missing. He wasn't struggling. He had simply replaced them. The betrayal wasn't just in his silence. It was in his success story. He had traded love for luxury, family for fortune. That night, Isabella tore every old letter into pieces. No more waiting, no more hoping. The girl who used to write to her father died that night. And from those ashes, something colder was born. Because the next time he'd see her name, it wouldn't be on a letter. It would be on a contract, above his signature. They say pain fades with time. For Isabella, it didn't fade. It forged. When her mother passed, the world didn't pause for sympathy. Bills still came. Rent still screamed. And the only family she had left was a memory that chose money over her. That night, standing alone in their dark apartment, she whispered to herself, never again. Never again would she beg to be loved. Never again would she need someone to rescue her. If life wanted to break her, she'd learn how to rebuild stronger. She took double shifts at the diner, scrubbed floors in offices where no one remembered her name. But after hours, when the lights dimmed and the noise of the city died, She opened her old laptop and she started to study business, finance, leadership, strategy. The world that had once excluded her. She would master it, one sleepless night at a time. She learned everything about her father's empire, the structure of his conglomerate, the companies he bought and sold, the board members who smiled beside him in photographs. Every success he had, she dissected it like an autopsy. At first, it was curiosity, a daughter trying to understand the man who left her. But as pages turned into plans and research turned into ambition, curiosity began to twist into something darker. She didn't want to understand him anymore. She wanted to surpass him. Every insult, every ignored letter, every moment of poverty became fuel. And that fuel burned quietly, steadily, without mercy. Because deep down, she knew if love couldn't make her father remember her, power would. And one day soon, he'd have no choice but to say her name again. Isabella Carter. But the next time he said it, it wouldn't be with pride. It would be with fear. Rock bottom has a strange sound. It's quiet. Too quiet. No applause, no encouragement. Just the hum of a cheap laptop on a flickering desk. That's where Isabella was. 2 jobs, no time, and just enough money to keep the lights on. But sometimes, it's in those sleepless nights that the loudest ideas are born. While serving coffee to business people who never looked up from their phones, she noticed something. Everyone wanted attention, but only a few controlled it. Corporations were draining small creators dry, using their talent, then tossing them aside like they were nothing. It was the same story she'd lived her whole life. The powerful taking, the voiceless enduring. And that's when the spark hit. What if the nobodies had a bridge, a way to connect directly to brands without the gatekeepers? She started sketching a plan on napkins between shifts. A platform, a connection point, a rebellion wrapped in a business model. She called it RiseLink, a network where small creators could rise, not because of who they knew, but because of what they could do. It wasn't glamorous. Her office was a corner table at the diner after hours. Her team was just her, coding, learning, pitching, and failing. But with every bug fixed, every rejection faced, her purpose grew sharper. She wasn't chasing her father's world anymore. She was building her own. Every night, she whispered to herself, "They built walls to keep people like me out. Fine, I'll build doors instead." And as she stared at the prototype on her cracked screen, a thought crept in. The kind that made her pulse race. If this works, if RiseLink really takes off, the empire her father abandoned her for might one day need her to survive. And she promised herself, when that day comes, he won't even see it coming. The first download was quiet. Just one notification on her cracked phone. But then another, and another. RiseLink was alive. Creators she had never met were joining, posting their work, connecting with brands, growing, thriving, and every single success story was a reminder. She had taken the pain, the rejection, the years of being invisible, and turned it into power. Investors started calling, young entrepreneurs, journalists, even tech bloggers. All wanted to know about the girl who built an empire from a broken home. She read every article with a mix of satisfaction and something else, a pulse of anticipation. Her father's name kept appearing in the background of the news, his conglomerate making headlines for acquisitions and deals. And with every story, every new connection RiseLink made, She felt it in her chest. He doesn't know it yet, but this world he left we out of, I'm about to own it. Her team grew, though she was still in the trenches. Every bug fixed, every pitch delivered, every contract signed felt like stacking bricks in a wall between her past and her future. But the fire inside her wasn't just about money. It was about justice. Not legal justice, but the kind that comes from proving yourself. The kind that makes those who doubted you stare in disbelief. And she could feel it. The moment was coming. The world she had been excluded from. The same world that ignored her, mocked her, left her to scrape by, was about to meet the force she had become. The email notification flashed on her laptop like a lightning strike. Acquisition offer received. She blinked, read it again. The sender? Carter Dynamics, her father's conglomerate. A laugh escaped her lips, bitter and sharp. The universe had a sense of humor. All those years of rejection, abandonment, humiliation, and now they wanted to buy her company. She leaned back in her chair, letting the irony sink in. For months, she had prepared herself to conquer competitors, navigate investors, and scale her empire. But this was personal. The meeting was scheduled. A sleek boardroom in the heart of the city. She walked in first. Smooth steps, calm breath, confidence forged in years of struggle. Minutes later, he entered. Her father. Everything about him screamed certainty. The posture, the tailored suit, the air of authority. And yet, he didn't recognize her. Not fully. Not yet. She sat at the head of the table, placing her hands lightly on the polished wood. The power in her posture wasn't just business savvy. It was revenge served quietly, with elegance. He froze, just for a heartbeat. Their eyes met. Time slowed. The man who once abandoned her had no idea what sat across from him. She smiled. A small, controlled smile. Not of malice, not of hate, but of triumph. The deal would be discussed. Contracts reviewed. Terms negotiated. And while he thought he was still in charge, she knew the truth. She was the storm he never saw coming. As the door closed behind him, her heartbeat stayed. She leaned forward, resting her elbows on the table, and whispered to herself, "He thinks he's the boss, but he just stepped into my world." The boardroom was silent, the kind of silence that presses against your chest. Her father began speaking, voice smooth, confident, rehearsed. "We appreciate your offer, Isabella, but Carter Dynamics prefers." She cut him off with a calm, unwavering tone. "Actually, I've already accounted for that clause. And this one. And that one." A flicker of confusion crossed his face. Then irritation. Then disbelief. Every point he raised, every tactic he thought would intimidate her, she dismantled effortlessly. Numbers, contracts, legal jargon. She had mastered it all in quiet nights, fueled by anger, rejection, and determination. The board members shifted uncomfortably, realizing the power had shifted across the table. Finally, she leaned forward. Eyes locked on him, voice steady but laced with fire. "I learned business from watching you leave." The words hit harder than any lawsuit, sharper than any investor's critique. He opened his mouth, but no argument came. His confidence faltered. The man who thought he was untouchable realized he was staring at his equal, his daughter, the girl he abandoned, the one he never thought would rise. She sat back, a small, controlled smile forming. This was more than a negotiation. This was proof. Proof that absence, betrayal, and abandonment could be transformed into unstoppable power. And as the boardroom held its collective breath, she thought quietly to herself, "He'll never see me coming until it's too late." Weeks of meticulous planning, countless sleepless nights, and every ounce of her determination had led to this moment. The final signature hit the contract. The merger was official. The news broke like a storm. Headlines screamed, "Startup founder becomes CEO of Carter Dynamics after historic acquisition." From abandoned daughter to corporate queen, Isabella Carter's triumph. Inside the boardroom, her father sat in his chair, no longer the commanding figure he once was. Now, by the decision of the board, he answered to her. She watched him squirm under the weight of his own past arrogance, his pride quietly cracking. Every smirk he once carried toward her absence was gone. Her heart raced, not with glee, not with vengeance, but with a quiet, undeniable satisfaction. She didn't just succeed, she surpassed him. Walking past him, she paused, voice steady, letting her presence sink in. "You thought leaving me would make me small. Now, I'm the one steering the ship." The room was filled with whispers. The world outside had witnessed her rise. The man who had abandoned her was now bound to follow her lead. She leaned back in her chair, eyes glinting with a mix of triumph and restraint. This isn't just victory. It's a lesson he'll never forget. But as she glanced at him, she knew the journey wasn't over. There was one final step. The one that would truly close the circle. The office was dark, the city lights casting long shadows across the polished floors. Isabella stepped into the empty boardroom, her heels clicking softly, echoing like a heartbeat. There he was, her father, hunched over the desk, papers scattered from the day's chaos. The man who had left her and her mother behind. The man who had never answered her letters, now looked small, vulnerable. He didn't notice her at first. Then, finally, his voice broke the silence. I'm proud of you, Isabella." She paused, studying him for a long moment. The words hung in the air, heavy with years of absence and regret. She finally spoke, her voice calm but cold. "I didn't do it for you." Silence swallowed the room. No excuses, no justifications, just the truth. He opened his mouth, but no words came. For the first time, he wasn't the powerful corporate titan he always believed himself to be. He was just a man who had walked away from the one person who never needed him to succeed. His daughter. Her gaze didn't waver. Every glance, every breath carried the weight of all those abandoned birthdays, lonely nights, and unanswered questions. In that quiet, she understood something he never would. She didn't need his pride, his love, or his approval to become unstoppable. The boardroom, once a place of power struggles, now held a different truth. She had already won, and he finally understood the cost of what he had lost. And in that realization, Isabella felt a strange calm. The chapter of longing, anger, and betrayal had ended. What came next? That was entirely her choice. The city lights shimmered like a sea of possibilities. From her office high above, Isabella gazed out at the skyline, a world she had reshaped with her own hands, her vision, and her fire. Her father, once a symbol of abandonment and power, now reported to her. Yet the victory wasn't in making him bow. It was in proving that she could rise from the ruins he left behind. She turned from the window, walking through the halls of Carter Dynamics. Each office she passed, Each employee she saw reminded her of what she had built, an empire fueled by perseverance, intelligence, and the scars of the past. But Isabella's ambition didn't stop at business. She launched initiatives for girls abandoned, ignored, or underestimated, giving them education, opportunity, and hope. She became the bridge she had always wished someone had been for her. In a quiet moment, she reflected on the years of struggle, the nights spent working 2 jobs, and the endless longing for recognition. A slow, satisfied smile formed. "He thought leaving me made him powerful," she whispered, almost to herself. "But real power is building something from what they left behind." The camera pulls back. Isabella stands tall, overlooking the city. The skyline is hers, not because of revenge, but because she forged her own legacy. Strong, calm, untouchable. The echoes of abandonment no longer haunt her. They have become the gold from which her empire was forged. Fade out on the city lights, sparkling like a testament to her journey. A life turned from pain into unshakable power.